I'm Matt Gilhooly, and this is The Life Shift, candid conversations about the pivotal moments that change lives forever. Hello, my friend. I have Lauren here with me, and I guess I can call you friend now, right? Because we've known each other for a long time. Lauren used to be a student of mine. You were one of my first live in-person students. What year was that?
We're going to date ourselves, but I graduated in 2010. So yeah, 2009. Oh my gosh.
2009.
Woo.
Yeah. So 2009, I was teaching at a local college here in Orlando, and it was like a finance type class, and you were one of the first groups of students to come through our new program that we had launched. And so I think that's the last time we saw each other at graduation, probably, right?
Yes, it was. So yeah, kind of a long time ago, kind of a lifetime ago in a way, but I'm glad we stayed connected because it gives us these types of opportunities to reconnect.
Exactly. So as probably everyone else, social media has been our connection, and we've randomly, had messages back and forth, but mostly I've just been keeping up with you, and you've probably been keeping up with me. Before we started recording, you actually asked me about a recent trip. So, that's how we do these days, right?
It is. Yeah. And it's kind of fun, the whole social media thing, because we can be thousands of miles apart, but still be a part of those big, fun milestones of each other's lives. So it has been a lifesaver in keeping our connection and our friendship alive and thriving throughout the years.
I feel the same. I also feel that I think in general, we don't do enough where we kind of just watch and we don't interact enough. So I'm trying to, in 2022, be a little bit more present in which I'm engaging with a post or responding to something that feels like, okay, I'm here. See me over here. So
here's the like button. Here's the smiley. Something.
It's exactly.
Small baby
especially
steps.
After the last couple years.
Absolutely.
Right. All right. So on this podcast, I've tried to have conversations with people about pivotal moments in their lives that really shifted their lives completely. And I think you have a story that so many other people can relate to. And I'm so glad that you're willing to be open and share your experience with what we're going to be talking about. But before we go to that point, I just want you to give us a little bit about like where you are, where you were, what you were doing, what was life like before the moments that you're going to be sharing today.
Sure. So let me just start off saying I try to be a very organized person. I'll say try because sometimes it doesn't always happen. And so I try to plan things out in life and have this like first this, then that. And when things don't go according to plan, it kind of just throws my head in this funk and I struggle. So let me just say that beforehand so everyone can kind of understand why things kind of scramble my brain and make it difficult to handle when things don't go according to plan.
Right. So you like to plot out your life points.
Absolutely. I love it. Like Excel spreadsheets and saying, okay, this time is this time is this, and it's color coded. Like that's just my brain. It just makes sense to me.
Right.
So when things don't go according to plan, it's very tough for me to handle it and react to it.
Right.
So kind of stepping back and getting us before this whole scenario happened that we're going to talk about, I was just out of college. I had been it was my boyfriend at the time for a couple years. We got married in 2012 and we'd been together for 5 years at that point. So, it feels like a lifetime being together. Right. And we started to talk about wanting to have a family at some point. We went through the classic, we need to pay off student loan debt first before we start thinking about having a family.
Smart.
So that was a big hurdle for both of us because we both had a lot of college debt to pay off. Right. And started with that, chipping away at it, buying a house, getting cars, kind of like the standard American dream. Start off with these couple steps before you start a family, if you will.
Before you go into that, I was going to say, I don't know if you remember this, but in the class that I taught, we read The Richest Man in Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if you used any of the advice from that novel.
I should probably go back to that. Honestly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure you did. I was so impactful that you just don't remember it was from the book. You thought it was from me.
Right, exactly. I was like, this is from Matt. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. All right, go on. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, like I had this image in my mind of what my life would look like, and it was kind of all plotted out. But then, like, surprise, life happens. And when we tried to start having kids, I was struck with infertility. And I feel like infertility is this really taboo topic. I never really heard about it or talked about it beforehand. Come to find out, like 1 in 4 people are affected by infertility. That's insane. Yeah. So, like, you, me, and 2 other people, one of us is hit with it, you know, just from a statistical standpoint. It really started to mess with my head because it gave me a lot of self-doubt.
Like you felt different about yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Because you felt that maybe you should be able to do this, yet your body is not allowing you to do certain things.
100%. That's the best way to put it. Is, you know, I've grown up in this world where you're told you can get married and have kids if you want, right? And now that's not possible, or didn't seem possible at that point in time.
Right.
So self-doubt, I was very confused why my body wasn't doing what it's like, quote unquote, supposed to do. Right. And I didn't know how to handle anything. Like, how do I go forward? Who do I talk to? Are there medical treatments that I should be going through? And
about how old were you around this in your 20s, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I was in my late 20s. So yeah, my late 20s, I'm starting to go through infertility. I'm hearing as you get closer to 30, it's harder to have kids and all these types of things.
The society pressure.
Exactly. There's societal pressure saying you should have kids already. Why don't you have kids? Right. You go to family events and, you know, aunts and uncles are, oh, when are you going to have kids? And and you're sitting there going, trying. It's very difficult.
Exactly.
So you're trying to put on this facade of feeling okay to the outer world, but inside it's very stressful, and it's kind of depressing to get through.
Right. Oh, for sure. And I can imagine that feeling like you can't do what you need to do, but also pretending that everything is fine and doing your normal day to day adds that extra stress, which is probably impacting the first issue or medical issue as well.
Exactly.
It's making it worse.
You're exactly right. And it's tough because not having talked about infertility before or hearing my friends or family talk about it, I didn't know where to start. Looking back now, there's tons of people that I know that went through this. And that's one of the good things that I learned out of this whole experience is I have cousins, I have aunts, I have friends also going through this. And we were able to create kind of our own support group in a way. Again, going back to when we were talking about social media, we can just drop each other a message on Facebook or Instagram and say, hey, I love you. I think you're an awesome person. You make my life so special. Just to give that support and then say, is there anything you need?
Right. And I think the problem, or not the problem, but I think with social media, wouldn't it be nice if people were having the same conversations about their successful pregnancies as if they were talking about the problems or the issues that they were facing, so that people like you at that moment in time would feel like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not, this is not me. This is common. This is something that happens. And now I can find resources from people that have gone through it. Wouldn't that be nice?
It'd be so nice. And that's why I wanted to make sure I got a chance to talk with you. And you gave me such a great opportunity here to share infertility is this huge umbrella. There's so many avenues underneath of it, both female and male. And I can only speak to what I've lived through and what I know.
Yeah. So tell us what was happening around that time.
Yeah. So during this time, I was diagnosed with PCOS. That's polycystic ovarian syndrome. Super medical sounding term. And basically for me, what it boiled down to was I can create a lot of eggs, but they won't mature. Which again, to someone like me who loves to plan and feels like I'm on top of the world when I plan things out, I go, what do you mean? I'm like 90% of the way there, but my body just gets to the last 10% and it's got like that buffering wheel, like can't do it, can't do it, can't do it.
Right.
And that was really, really hard for me to understand and to live through. The first time I went through it, it took a year and a half for me to get pregnant successfully and keep the pregnancy. I did have a miscarriage along the way in that first time.
Which is another taboo topic, right? Which it shouldn't be.
Right. It's normal. It's not normal in the sense that it's a lovely experience by any means. It was probably one of the most devastating times of my life.
Especially for someone that had gone through infertility to then finally get a viable pregnancy that then, sorry that you went through that.
Thank you. You're right, Matt. It's tough when you try month after month. You give yourself injections, you take medications, you get blood tests, you go to doctor's appointments every couple days, and you get the call and say, yes, you're pregnant. We're starting to see those hormone levels rise. And then all of a sudden, the next week, I'm sorry, but it's not a viable pregnancy. Your levels are going down and you've had a miscarriage. And that's probably the lowest point that I was ever at, feeling completely just lost, I think is probably the right word.
Yeah. Because you probably felt, okay, I had this problem and I found a way to overcome this problem. And then I had hope that I was going to go here. And then all your hopes were kind of squashed after doing everything that everyone told you to do.
Right. Yeah. Changed my diet, tried to get more exercise, tried to lower stress, which good luck with that. Right.
Right.
But yeah, you're trying to follow all the steps of what the medical professionals are telling you. And it just, your bubbles just burst at a certain point.
Right.
So yeah, year and a half, I went through tests, blood draws. Honestly, my arms, I had to start hiding my arms because I was getting all of these just like, it almost like scars and bruises on my arms from all the blood draws that I had to get. And I didn't want to get people looking at me weird. Like, why do you have just literally my arms were covered in bruises.
Right.
So and again, I think that leads into the taboo part of it too, a little bit too.
During that time period when you were getting fertility treatments, I'm assuming that's what you were talking about of some sort, right?
Yes.
Was that something that you were sharing with others, or how did you feel?
I didn't share it. And I struggled to share it even with my parents, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
And
do you know why? Do you know why you think you didn't want to share that?
I think because, one, I didn't hear anyone else talking about this. So I didn't feel like I understood how to even express my feelings about it. But I also think just as a person, I was feeling very ashamed of myself.
Which you should not, by the way.
Thank you. And I think that's something I would want to share with anyone else going through any sort of infertility experience, is if you feel ashamed, you shouldn't. And it's so much easier to say than to actually like have that mind shift happen.
Right.
But
well, of course,
easier said than done. But It's
Because
not your
essentially you're
fault.
grieving.
Yes.
It's a grief through the whole process, and it's a fear. It's a, you don't want. I mean, we as humans don't want to let other people down, and somehow I'm guessing that you were like, I didn't want to share because I don't want to get other people's hopes up, because what if I don't do this? Like,
Right.
what if it doesn't work? So I hope too, like, if other people are listening to this and are going through similar things, I would hope that they be more open. Because imagine having a supportive community that could have helped you through that, the community that you talked about just a few minutes ago that you have now, that you keep in touch with and you support each other. Imagine if you had had that then and you were able to be as open and sharing.
Right. Now, I do have to say, there's one other component I think that made me feel that sense of like shame and guilt,
Right.
and this is all, I think, looking back on it, self-imposed. And I think I can say that now about myself, to say, Lauren, look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. There's no reason why you should have felt like your body is letting you down. Yes, that is how I felt. But I also had been, looking at social media a lot, and everyone on social media has a sense of putting like your best face forward a lot. It's the highlight reel of our lives. So when I would look at social media, I'd always see, oh, this person's pregnant. Oh, this person's pregnant. This person's taking their child out on a play date. This person's taking their child to Disney. And it was all of these happy, happy moments. But I never saw someone talking about the tragedies and literally the grief of going through a struggle like infertility, of trying to get pregnant, of having miscarriages, of going through and seeing specialists to figure out what's wrong with you, to get weekly ultrasounds, to get medical injections, like all of these things that come along with infertility for some folks. I wasn't seeing that anywhere. And I decided to actually turn off all notifications to social media on my phone. And I still do that to this day. And I'll tell you, that has been a huge shift for my mental state. And I kind of recommend that to people, like, try a 1 week detox of social media notifications. It's super hard to find the preferences for some of these apps because they don't want you to not get their notifications. But every social media channel, I turned all the notifications off. So I actually have to open the app if I want to see what's going on. And that helped to not have the highlight reel constantly in my face and make me feel a little bit more in control of the content I was consuming. And then it also opened me up to more time to connect with the people who were going through the same struggles or were part of my support group. And we could actually be more supportive of one another.
Right. Yeah, I was talking to a friend on another episode of this, and we were talking about the mental aspect of social media and how so much of it is used as a performative type art of, look at what I do, look at how much money I made, look at what I've created, look at, and it can be toxic to one's mental health, especially when someone's going through something like grief or infertility or the grief related to infertility. So I think that's great advice for everyone really, is to just kind of consume it when you're ready to consume it, and consume it with the understanding that a lot of people are just showing you the best parts of their life. They're not showing you the down and dirty parts and the parts that really make them human beings and make them connect with others. If they had shown those, I think there'd be a lot stronger connections than, here's my newest purse.
Right. Although the purse is probably really cute. We'll be honest, but still.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So you went through a year and a half of treatments and everything. You had what seemed to be hope, and then you had a miscarriage. What happened after that?
That was probably the lowest point I was ever at in my entire life. I was
Oh, I can imagine.
absolutely in grief mode. It was
Right.
the same feeling for me as if I had physically gone through the death of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, I had that
You
hope.
did.
I had someone there with me.
Mm-hmm.
They were growing, and
Right.
then they weren't there anymore. And I had to
Right.
go through all of the stages of grief,
Mm-hmm.
of death and losing someone. And I would say it probably took me personally at least a year to get through the grief stages.
Right.
But at the same time, I also got pregnant. I had a viable pregnancy, and I had my first son. And
Oh, that's good news.
yeah, so 1 month I had a miscarriage, and the very next month, the doctor said, you have a 3% chance of getting pregnant. Like, period. That's it.
And you did.
And I did. Like,
you showed him.
I know. I was like, 3%. I'll show you what I can do with 3%.
Good for you. And how old is your child now?
So my firstborn, Austin, he is 2.5 years old. And he is, oh my gosh, he's a spitfire image of my husband, energetic, running around. He's just the coolest person I think I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you were saying, like, during that pregnancy, you were also still grieving.
I was.
The first loss.
I was.
I don't think you're alone in that. I don't. I think there are a lot of women that have had miscarriages and then, you know, a couple months later end up with a viable pregnancy to term, yet still for periods after that grieve the loss of the first miscarriage.
Yes.
So I think that's important for people to know that that's a thing. Like, it's not just, it's gone, moving on.
Right.
I mean, it's a true loss, and it's especially for someone like you going through the fertility treatments and all these things to get to that point, then losing it too. So you had your child.
Yeah, I'm so thankful I have my child. Yeah. And I just want to build on that thought because you're right. Going through and grieving while being pregnant, it wasn't just the grief of losing the prior pregnancy. There was a severe fear that I was going to lose the pregnancy that I currently had.
Oh, I bet.
Throughout the entire pregnancy. So 9 months of just fear and, you know, I feel a kick. Was it a real kick? Do I need to count seconds in between this kick and the next kick? Was that just gas bubbles? Like, all these crazy, weird thoughts that are truly valid. And I've talked to some other friends who went through the same situation and they had a miscarriage and then they got pregnant. And they also felt the same way, just this extreme fear of, can I go outside and go for a walk? Is that safe? Can I eat this food?
Can it happen again?
Can it happen again?
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that this is something that's actually common. Like, more people than just me go through this. I just...
Yeah. More people need to talk about it because honestly, you started this off saying it's taboo, and it shouldn't be. It's really, I mean, it honestly shouldn't be. Just like people say mental health, you can't talk about that. We all have some form of things that we should address in our mental health.
Right.
At some point in our lives. It's not taboo. It's a human thing. And so is infertility. So are miscarriages. So are full-term pregnancies. You know, I think the whole gamut, I think people just need to talk about it more. And you know, I say this as a man who cannot get pregnant. And so I'm fine with that.
But having your support is huge.
Right. And men need to talk about it, and they need to not be ashamed, or I can't imagine that people would do this, but I'm sure there are men out there that would place blame or those kind of things. And people just need to talk about it and be more open about it as much as they feel like they can be. I don't want to force people to talk about things that maybe they're not comfortable doing, but I want them to know it's okay to talk about these things.
Right. Yeah, and infertility can affect men and women. My story is it's affecting me as a woman, but it could be one partner, it could be both partners in a relationship. And there's also great resources that I found, some influencers out there. One of my favorite is Sean T. He's a fitness guy and a motivational speaker. Him and his husband, they actually went through infertility with a surrogate for over 3 years. And he's been an advocate of infertility. And that's also one of the ways that I started to realize, wait, people do talk about this and we can share our stories.
Right.
That helped me as well when a strong man influencer stepped up to the plate and said, let me share my story because I can help pave the road for other people to feel comfortable enough to start the conversations.
Right. Yeah. And I think we are seeing more of that on social media now. I think people are being a little bit more vulnerable. It's not, taking over the feeds, but I think that there are more people sharing. I've seen other influencers or celebrities or people like that talking about, losses such as a pregnancy loss or things like that. So, hopefully people are making this more just something that is part of life, unfortunately, but also helpful in a way of sharing those things. Yeah. So I hear you said my firstborn, so there's more good news coming.
There is.
What's the rest of that journey look like?
There is. So we had our first son in 2019, and about a year later decided, you know what, I think we want to try for another one. And it stemmed from my husband being one of 4, but I'm an only child. And going through the world as an only child, I said, I would absolutely love to see my son have a bond with a sibling. I know it can be difficult growing up as an only child. We could have a whole other podcast on being an only child.
There are perks.
Hey, Christmas time, holidays, birthdays, you don't have to share anything.
Exactly.
But I decided with my husband, let's give it a shot. We did get really lucky the first time. Yes, it was a year and a half of a lot of work and medical intervention, but let's see if we can do this again. Luckily, it only took 6 months to get pregnant with some specialist help. Again, medical treatment and medications and everything like that. But we were able to get pregnant again. But unfortunately, I also had a miscarriage before I got pregnant with that one. So it was the same story, the same journey that I had with my first pregnancy again with the second one.
Do you feel like that? I have 2 questions. The first one is, when you were making the decision that you wanted to have another one, what was your how did you feel at that point? Were you as scared, or you're like a little bit hopeful? Like, was it different than before? And then was that second process, did that feel very similar to the first time? So I guess it's kind of the same question, but at different points.
Right. So it was the feeling of having more hope the second time around. One, because I'd already been through it before. I knew the doctor that I was going to. I knew what the medications were. I knew which medications I didn't like and my body would react to, so we could skip those. I knew the treatment of IUI, so an intrauterine insemination. That's how I had to do it. And some people have to go a step further and do IVF. So I knew the process, the people. I knew how to get to the doctor's appointments. I knew what questions to ask. So I felt a lot more hopeful because I was more armed and I had more of a support system at that point in time that I could talk to. I started talking to my parents and saying, this week I'm going to the doctor and these are the 3 things we're going to do.
And it also sounds like that having the successful period allowed that organized portion of you to really set out, okay, this is how it's going to go. You could then get to your Excel spreadsheet again, not really joking, but truthfully, you had, these are the no pile. This is how it's going to happen. And do you think because of all that that's why it was 6 months versus 18 months?
I think that's part of it. I think part of
Yeah.
it is we as an organization, my husband, myself, my doctors, we knew what did work and what didn't work. So we could quickly go down the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, I had grown a significant amount between the first pregnancy and the second pregnancy too. You know,
Right.
I had learned more about myself on how I could feel comfortable communicating about being on this infertility journey with my parents
Mm-hmm.
and with friends. And I had learned how to cut out some negative chatter in my life, whether it was social media or if I just needed to leave work at 5 o'clock and say, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to sign back on
Mm-hmm.
my computer when I get home.
Boundaries.
I learned how to set more boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you something, like that was a life changer in itself because it gave me more time for being healthy for my body. It gave me more time to be present in my relationship with my husband and with my son. So
Right.
it really like was this snowball effect of positivity. And I felt more confident asking questions. Like I was the one driving my journey. I wasn't going to let infertility drive my journey anymore. I wasn't going to let the doctors say, let's try 5 things first. I said, no, this is what I feel comfortable with. And this is my
Right.
body. And this is my life. And I'm going to grab the bull by the horns and,
Mm-hmm.
just show myself that I am capable of controlling my life and my future. And that
Right.
all came because of the significant, the issues and the struggles and the back and forth that I'd been through with the first pregnancy.
Right. Would you say that facing infertility the first time made you a more confident person now?
100%. 100%.
You kind of accepted that a lot of this is science and a lot of this is out of your control, but you also probably found the things that were in your control, right? And
Mm-hmm.
felt good about those things. You accepted it. You felt good in the space that you were in,
Right.
or at least that's what it sounds like.
You put the words out there better than I could say it. Absolutely. And it's really interesting to hear you say that and pick up on that because
Mm-hmm.
that's my journey. I
Right.
became me throughout this journey.
Right.
And it sucks that I had to go through it for a total of, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, I have my husband who supported me and was giving me injections because I'm terrified of needles. So I would look
Yeah,
away and he would have to give me medication.
I bet.
I have,
Yeah, I mean, his story is probably very interesting as well.
right, like being the support
Mm-hmm.
person and having to support me going through all of these waves of emotion and his own
Right.
grief of
Mm-hmm.
miscarriages and having our
Mm-hmm.
2 sons now. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 4-month-old. So,
Wow.
my house is normally like super noisy and crazy having 2 boys,
Mm-hmm.
but it's, you know what? It has been a freeing experience for me to become, I think, a more authentic version of myself.
Yeah. And you know what? And we've been talking about this in other episodes, is that these moments sometimes they're needed to make us the people that we are today. I mean, I've had multiple life shifts, if you will, in my life, and I look back and as tough as they were, I'm grateful that they happened, because I would not be where I am, who I am, have the values that I have had I not gone through that. And it
Absolutely.
sounds like, not to wish that experience on anyone, you still value that terrible experience that you went through because it made you who you are right now.
It made me who I am, and it made me have this opportunity to share with other people that they're not alone, right?
Right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
we can
Right.
start talking about this, and even if it's just you and me, this is one more person. And who knows,
Right.
maybe you're out one day and someone drops a little nugget and they say that they're having a tough time, and you go,
Mm-hmm.
wait, I've heard of someone else talking about this. I know someone, I can empathize with this person and just be
Hmm.
there as a support person. Okay, our trail is now 3 people deep, and who knows where that's going to go next. So
Right.
sharing,
Exponential.
absolutely, the exponential growth of being able to talk about this is, if we can empower one person to feel like they're not alone and that they're heard,
Hmm.
and that I don't want to give anyone false hope, because I've been there. I've been through the miscarriages, and I have
Hmm.
friends who have gone through the same type of journey, and they're not able to get pregnant. They have to
Right.
think about adoption, or they have to think about what they want in their futures as a family.
Hmm.
I get that, and I don't want to give false hope, but I want to give support, and knowing that if someone needs a shoulder to cry on, if someone needs someone just to say that sucks,
Right.
or just to
Right.
feel heard, I'm here, and there's other people out there willing to be that support person and a friend at the end of the day.
Right. And that's the person that you needed years ago, right? When you thought, what? I've never heard, or I can't imagine that this is a thing for other people. What's wrong with me? Why am I in this situation? Imagine if you had current you to just talk to and go like, look what's happening.
Right.
What would you say to earlier you?
I'd probably just give her a hug and say,
Yeah.
I'm here for you.
Right. And that's what that's what you needed.
That for me, I needed someone just to be there and say, I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of just embrace me and protect me in that way. Some people, I think, need that same level of just like emotional connection. Some people need to go out and like break dishes and,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
punch things, and please
Mm-hmm.
don't punch people, but like inanimate objects, maybe like a pillow, scream into a pillow, punching bags. Yes. Go to the gym. But some people, like, you need to find a way to feel connected and that
Mm-hmm.
you're supported.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very similar. I mean, we've kind of created this connection to grief in your journey, and I think grief is the same thing. I think people going through it need to know that their experience is their own experience, right?
Yes.
So that's not going to be the same as anyone else's. And having gone through that grief portion myself, I feel like the best advice I could give to someone is that whatever you're feeling is okay. And you just kind of just explain that, if you need to scream, that's fine. You want to laugh one day, that's also okay, because you are a human that has varying emotions, and everything that you're feeling right now is valid, and you should be okay with that. And I think having a community of women and men that have faced infertility issues in their family, or even in just themselves, wanting to be a solo parent or something like that, need to know that however they are feeling is okay, but there are other people that have likely been through similar situations that can be there to share resources or listen or punch things with them.
Absolutely.
And it's really all about community, right? Like that's what humans should be doing. We should be creating these connections in authentic ways.
Yep. If we, like, this is my Miss America dream, right? Like, if you can change anything in the world, what would you change? If we can support one another, how awesome would this world be?
Right. Right. Because imagine that when you found out that you were going to have difficulty conceiving, and you had someone that was just like, I'm here, I'm by your side, let's go. I mean, you had your husband, right, but he probably didn't have the resources too. So if you guys had someone that had gone through this journey before, successful or not, to just be there, that you could bounce ideas off of. I mean, maybe you'd be a different person now, but I think your experience would have been probably less scary,
painful, anxiety riddled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe the anxiety piece is maybe would have been a little bit smaller, right? The scary part probably still would have been there.
Right, we still have to go through a lot of very new experiences.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's if people can get anything out of this conversation is that they're not alone, and that humans have very similar experiences, obviously differences along the way, but if we could all be here for each other and help each other out, and even if you talk to someone that didn't have those experiences and you were just free to share that information, unload that feeling that you were having, I mean, I think you would have been better off because of that. So
Right.
I hope that you can be that for some other people, which it sounds like you already are.
I'm trying. I want to be that for
Yeah.
people because I think they deserve it. I think
Yeah.
they might not realize how amazing they are and how strong they are and how important they are in their community and in their family and in their friend circle. But they are so pivotal and they deserve to have support. I found a lot of support in music as well. That's, I on my car rides to the doctors, I would crank music and just like belt it out. I'm sure the people next to me in the cars were like, "Whoa, what is going on?"
Yeah, she's having a good time.
Oh yeah. I'm going to get some shots for infertility. Crank up the music.
Right.
But
hey,
whatever
sometimes you need
works.
things like that.
Yeah. Turn on Florida Georgia Line with I think it's BB Rexa.
Is that what got you through?
It's weird. I think it was like this weird universe thing, but for both my first and my second pregnancy, every time I went to the doctors, one song was always on the radio. No matter what time of day I went to the doctors, no matter what station I was listening to,
Really?
like it came on. And I'm like, this is a sign. So it's kind of like my anthem now when I feel like I need a boost of confidence that anything is possible. So I like crank it up. It's if it's meant to be.
Yeah, meant to be.
Yeah, I would literally, it came on and like I would be driving and just like screaming and not even singing. I can't even call it singing.
Right.
But just like letting it all out. And that was kind of my anthem and kind of still is to feel like I'm going to kick the ass today. Like it's going to happen.
Yeah. We're going to make this work. Now, to bring a little levity to the conversation, early you started saying that you are a planner and things have to be in their order. Did you readjust or did you throw that out by the window?
I only can control what I can control. And I think before all of this journey, like all the infertility and having kids and even getting married, my level of wanting control was way like sky high. I wanted to plan everything out. And now I've realized I can have a goal for the day. Like I want to fold laundry. And if I fold laundry, great. And if I don't.
Do you really want to though?
No. Matt, it's behind me in the corner still from like a week ago. It's not going anywhere.
See, everyone's the same.
We just like throw a blanket over. I'm like, we'll come to do it later.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Life doesn't care that you have plans, right? Life is going to happen the way that it plans to. It has plans for you, but it doesn't care about your plans.
No, not at all. And that's kind of another benefit of going through this all is coming out on the other side, being able to look back with hindsight going, I was able to learn that it's okay to let go of some things. It's okay to not have control of everything. It's okay to now have a floor full of, mega blocks and trains and blankets and pillows. And it's way more fun to just embrace it and kind of roll with the punches than it was to sit there and feel stressed that everything wasn't in its exact place.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this tough journey made you a more authentic and confident person that whatever you're doing is just fine. And that, and that is okay. And that's good. And that is your life. So I really appreciate you sharing the story. I know it's hard to talk about things like this, but you say it with a smile and positivity now, having gone through it and faced a lot of challenges, and came out on the other side with 2 healthy children that make a lot of noise in your house.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my neighbors probably think there's a circus going on most days here. But it's fun. We only live once, and sometimes it's fun to embrace the crazy and just be you.
Yeah. I agree. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this. And I hope people really connect with your story and find some value in what you had to share.
No, thank you so much for letting me be able to share this out with people and give them the opportunity to realize they're not alone. And there's other people that have been through it before. There'll be other people that go through it after them. And we are all one community to help support each other out. So I hope they can be proud of themselves, proud of where they're at, and know there's support out there for them. They just need to ask.
I totally agree. All right. We'll see you on the social media.
Yes. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks again. Bye. You've just listened to the Life Shift podcast. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. For more information about how you can support the Life Shift podcast, please visit www.thelifeshiftpodcast.com. See you next time.